Welcome to Immigration Quicktake. This is Ellie Rutledge Silver with the American Immigration Lawyers Association. Last week, news broke that the Obama administration would be conducting another surge of raids aimed at families and unaccompanied children across the nation. Here to share more information is Greg Chen, AILA's Director of Advocacy. Greg, thanks for joining me. What do we know so far about the enforcement actions that ICE has planned?
It's been nearly 2 years now since the Obama administration began this aggressive enforcement and deterrence strategy to prevent Central American families and children and other individuals from coming up here to the United States. And now the administration has really upped the ante with even more raids targeting the same population. What we know is that this will be a nationwide surge over the next 30 days or so that will be targeting families and unaccompanied children who have reached the age of 18 coming from Central America, who have final orders of removal entered against them. We don't know exactly how many, and nor do we know exactly where these will happen. These are in addition also to the raids that happened in January that picked up about 121 people as far as we know, and also the ongoing Operation Border Guardian action that has picked up at least several hundred people targeting the unaccompanied children population. What is the Obama administration saying about why it's doing this? Basically, it's justifying this as part of its enforcement priorities because it says recent border crossers are within the administration's enforcement priorities. The problem, though, is that so many of these people who are coming are asylum seekers, fleeing death, fleeing persecution, rape, domestic violence in their home countries. And AILA's attorneys who've been volunteering with the CAR Pro Bono Project have interviewed hundreds, really thousands of these individuals. And the high rate that our attorneys are winning asylum for these families is borne out not only in our own cases and what we've seen, our attorneys have seen, but also in the very high rate, now about 90% of these families that are being screened for credible fear interviews by the U.S. government are being found to have a credible fear by the U.S. government. That's the government's own statistics.
What is AILA doing?
First of all, AILA is pushing back against the administration and trying to educate government officials and Congress and the public about the fact that these are asylum seekers and these countries are falling apart right now. There's incredible violence there. And using these kind of deterrence and enforcement tactics just are not only inappropriate, but just morally wrong. And we are pushing back against them now. There is an action alert on our website that you can go to send a message to the president, to the administration, to stop these tactics. We're also getting a lot more educational materials and information up on our website to make sure that the public and our members are informed about this. And for people who want to assist in these kinds of cases, that they have the most up-to-date materials about asylum law, humanitarian protection, and how to help this population. Lastly, what we are now going to be expecting is a wave of these kinds of families and children being picked up in the next several days, next several weeks. Many of them will go to the Dilley and facility in Texas, where we have our CAR Pro Bono project operating, and we are going to be trying to assist them as much as we can in making sure that their due process protections are upheld and that nobody is sent back to real danger.
What does AILA want the administration to do?
Most important, what this administration has to stop doing is to stop using these deterrence and enforcement tactics against Central American families and children who are really vulnerable and are entitled to have the opportunity to seek asylum under our laws. It needs to be able to make sure that due process is being provided to these asylum seekers. Now, we know the administration is concerned about the borders and wants to be able to keep the borders under control. From AILA's perspective, that can be done while also making sure that our asylum laws and due process are being protected. We've been doing it for many years before this surge of Central American families started coming a couple of years. We have the mechanisms for doing it. And how does that look like now? What needs to happen? Well, first of all, the border processing of these families needs to be improved. We cannot have Border Patrol agents who are wearing sidearms, who are sitting there talking to mothers who have their young children right next to them and asking questions that are very sensitive about violence or rape that they've experienced. It needs to be trained people, professionals who understand how to interview somebody who has experienced this kind of violence and trauma. The application of expedited removal and other summary removal processes also has to be suspended for this population, given the high rate that they are qualifying now for asylum and other protection. Family detention was ramped up a couple of years ago. That also needs to stop because it's making it impossible for these families to get fair process before the courts. Last two things are improving the courts system so that there's no backlog in cases, and also making sure that these families and these children have counsel. The government does not guarantee counsel, and AILA has long been asking for that kind of provision. Well, for this population, there absolutely has to be government paid for counsel for these children, these families, before they can go through with their cases.
Thanks, Greg, for joining me. For the rest of you, please stay tuned for more updates from the American Immigration Lawyers Association.